Hello and welcome to the JSA Studio. I'm your host, as always, Nathan, and today I'm coming at you with the next video in my Big Ten team-by-team season in review series. Today we're going to be talking about the Iowa Hawkeyes, but before we get into the video itself, it's at this time that I am going to ask you to like, comment, and subscribe. It would really help out the channel if you did. And now with the intro done and out of the way, there's only one thing left to do, and that is to get started by starting with Iowa's season in review. And obviously, the biggest issue with this year's squad is that you had three honest-to-God bad losses. Three losses that you did not need to have, okay? And, okay, we'll go game by game here. Illinois State at Iowa. Dominate. Offense looks competent. Cade Cunningham looks like he's, 2021 Michigan. All right, so pretty solid, unlike last year where he was abysmal. Iowa State the next week at home. Now, Iowa State was very, 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 very good this year. Very good. A tremendous team. They were unbeaten, I think, until their 10th game, and they lost very, very close game in that game. They finished the regular season 10-2, I think, tied for first place in the Big 12, and made the Big 12 championship game where they got obliterated by Arizona State. But that's whatever. Doesn't matter that much. Iowa State was a very, very good football team. You lost by 1 point. And you honestly should not have lost that game. There were a lot of things in that game that went wrong for you in order for Iowa State to win that game. You handled Troy the next week, beat Minnesota, rivalry game, good win there. You lose to Ohio State, that's fine, no big deal there. Beat Washington, that's a good win on at home. The probably worst loss of the season was to Michigan State. You have absolutely no excuse for losing that game. That's real, real bad. That's a horrendous loss. A horrendous. Michigan, not even, Michigan at the end of the year where they figured some shit out. Bad Michigan with bad quarterback play where they're only capable of throwing the ball down the field to Coastal Loveland, and that was it. Beat this Michigan State team. And you didn't. That's how abysmal that game was. That was a disastrous loss. A disastrous loss. Like Iowa State, I can forgive because Iowa State was a really, really good team. But your other two losses here in the regular season, other than Ohio State, unbelievably bad. Unbelievably bad. Now you bounce back the next 2 weeks. You beat Northwestern and Wisconsin. Defense looks like it's turned a corner a little bit after they got their ass beat by Michigan State. And then you lose to UCLA on the road. And if you were an East Coast team and not in the middle of the goddamn country, I'd maybe be a little bit more lenient with this. But that's another inexcusable L for this coaching staff and this football team. A disastrous loss. Abysmal. Absolutely abysmal L. Now, good news is you finished the regular season. You had the bye week, beat Maryland, beat Nebraska at home to end the season, finished 8-4. Music City Bowl game, again with Missouri. You had the lead late, could have won that game. I'm sad because you were the only Big Ten team that lost to an SEC team, which means that there was at least some part of the SEC that was better than some part of the Big Ten, which is a disaster for Nathan and nobody else. But it doesn't matter that much. But I would still probably say you should have won that game. So you had 3 games where you have no excuses to lose. Okay? 3 games this past year. No excuses to lose. If you beat Michigan State and UCLA, instead of being 8-4, you're 10-2. And with your only 2 losses being to Big 12 championship game bound Iowa State and eventual national champion Ohio State, there's there's a real good shot you're the fifth Big Ten team in the college football playoffs. Genuinely, that's how close you were. If you had just won the games you were supposed to win, I'm not even giving you Iowa State, which you could have, maybe should have even won that game, and then you're 11-1, and maybe, depending upon how the tiebreakers shake out, maybe you're in the Big Ten championship game. You were so goddamn close to having an absurdly great year, a fantastic year, okay? But ultimately, the QB carousel, the poor quarterback play from Cade McNamara, who had to transfer to FCS level, lower levels of Division I in order to guarantee himself a starting job because that's how horrible he was. And then, Sullivan, the backup, I actually thought acquitted himself much better, to the point where I was actually kind of okay if you didn't go out and get a transfer quarterback. Now, I know you did. I can't remember his name. I know you did go out and get a transfer quarterback, but I would have been fine if you had kept Sullivan and just rolled with him. His athleticism added a dynamic to this offense that I don't know if Iowa's ever had before at the quarterback position, because he was a very, very athletic player, and he could run around and do things and help out the run game that way. But ultimately, the inconsistency at the quarterback position really, I think, did you in this year. Because even if the defense has an off night like it did against Michigan State, you should have been able to score more than 20 points against Michigan State, genuinely. And you should have been able to score more than 17 against UCLA, all right? Giving up 19 to, Iowa State, that's acceptable. Their defense was great, but it doesn't matter that much. All things considered, it was a typical Iowa 8-4 season. You were held back by the quarterback play. You had a really good run game with Caleb Johnson, really solid defense. QB play hurt you real bad this past year. However, all things considered, this was still a solid year. I'm giving you a B+ for two reasons. First reason, you won 8 games. Second reason, I can't really blame you for losing to UCLA, because that team got hot at the end of the year. That was not the 5-7 caliber team that you were playing at that point. Okay, I think they finished the year 4-2. UCLA did, so that's a quality football team by the end of that year. Michigan State is still absolutely unexcusable, but it's okay. You had a hiccup, I guess, and you lost to a good Missouri team that nobody respected this past year for some reason in the bowl game. All in all, B+ I think is a good grade for this year. I think it's the correct grade because it was good, maybe really good even, if you had managed to win another game or two here. But man, it could have been great. It could have legitimately been A+. If you had gone 10-2, that's an A+ season. A+. You're Iowa, all right? There are different expectations, and that's an A+ season, 10-2. Brilliant year is what could have happened. Unfortunately, that's not what actually happened. But what about next year? Looking forward here, I know that you've got the transfer coming in, Mark Gronowski, I believe is how you say his name, transfer quarterback. I don't know if he's that big of an upgrade, or even if he's an upgrade. Okay, at least with Sullivan, I could have said, oh, that guy's an athlete. All right, I get that he was a winner at South Dakota State or wherever he was, or North Dakota State. I don't remember. He's at one of them at the FCS level. I get that. Okay, I'm not sure he's going to be all that much of a difference maker at the quarterback position. And without someone like Caleb Johnson in the backfield, which I don't know if Kamari Moulton could step up and be that guy. Maybe he can. I hope he can. I hope he does end up being as good or maybe better than Caleb Johnson. I really hope he does. But we don't know that, okay? So there's a lot of question marks offensively for this team. Listen, defensively, you're gonna be fine. You're gonna be fine defensively. It's the reality of the situation, okay? So when you look at the schedule is manageable, but not as manageable as it could be, okay? You open up against Albany, should be a W there. Iowa State, at Iowa State, tough game, should beat UMass. At Rutgers, tough game. That might be the game where we learn some shit about this program, because I think Iowa State's going to start the season ranked. I think they're going to have some big expectations. They're returning their quarterback, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, they're losing two fantastic wide receivers on offense, but they might be poised to reload at that position. So Iowa State, if you lose, even in somewhat embarrassing fashion in that game, I'm not going to take away a whole lot from this team and the potential that it could have. Rutgers is where we might figure out some shit. Because Rutgers, I think, is going to be fine next year. I think they're going to be as good as they were this year, next year. Indiana, I think, is going to take a step back, but I still think they're going to be a solid team. That could potentially be another testing kind of game. At Wisconsin, after a bye week, will be interesting. Because I'm not necessarily a big believer in Wisconsin this upcoming season, okay? But it's still a rivalry game. You never know what could happen. Home versus Penn State. Penn State might be preseason #1 team in the country. They've got a lot of talent coming back. Very, 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 very talented squad, Penn State. So I would not put that in the W column. Home against Minnesota. Again, rivalry game. Not sure if that's anything better than a 50-50 game from you. You're probably going to lose to Oregon, even though that game's at home. Go to USC. Tough game. I think USC is probably going to be better next year. Probably. Again, we don't really know, but I think USC still has a very talented quarterback, okay? They're still going to get good quarterback play as long as Lincoln Riley is there. That's just the reality of the situation. They can put up points. So you win that game, maybe. I don't know. That's probably another 50-50 game. Michigan State, I would also put in a 50-50 game, even though you're at home. Michigan State, I think, is going to take a step forward. I think Michigan State and Nebraska more so because of the schedule, but Michigan State, just because I believe in Jonathan Smith so much, I think is just going to take a step forward next year. I have two Big Ten programs that I'm pretty confident are going to be better next year than they were this year, and that's Michigan State and Nebraska, who are your last two games, okay? And those are probably both 50-50 games as well. So you could sell me on 5 and 7. You could say, oh, hey, quarterback position is not going to be what it is. More difficult schedule this year than last year. Maybe the defense isn't what it once was. Yeah, you could sell me on not being that great of a year. However, you could also sell me on 9-3 pretty easily. That could also happen. You've got more variance, in my opinion, this year than a lot of other teams. I think you've got a lower floor than some teams, and I think you've got a higher ceiling than some teams as well in the Big Ten. But that's just me, and what do I know? I'm just some asshole on the internet giving you his opinion. To this point, I'd like to remind you to like the video if you liked it, subscribe if you want to see more content like this, and if you disagree with me at any point, or you just have something to say, go ahead and drop a comment down in the comment section below. And now with the outro done and out of the way, there's only one thing left to say, and that's that I'll see you next time.